Okay, we're just going to go through the process of cutting an automotive key. So here we have the key cutting machine, automatic machine that's in all of the Bunnings warehouse stores. You'll see that it's sitting inside a Perspex cover, which is great because it gives the user, the key cutter, just some protection as the keys cut. You know, you can get filings going, etc. So all stores should have this. If you don't have this in your store, or you can't fit it in, then you've got to make sure you're wearing the safety goggles, but we're not going to need these because we've got the cover. So the customer comes in with his or her automotive key, and the first thing we know is that it's a Mazda key. It's one of the original ones, so it doesn't have any markings on it as such other than the brand. So the first thing we've got to do is select the correct key blank. So we go across to the keyboard. This board is in all Bunnings stores, and it carries, all the stores carry, this board covers, well, just about all of the keys that are available. You may on occasion get a customer come in with a key that you can't find the blank for. That'd be quite rare, but if that's the case, then you'll be unable to cut the key. Importantly too with automotive keys is that any of the automotive keys that have a transducer, a button, you know, that opens and unlocks the car, you can't cut keys for those. You can only do it with a key like that, standard blank key with no transducer. Right, so we know it's going to be in these first two rows. Everything below, as I mentioned, is domestic. These two rows are automotive. It's a Mazda. So you can see here Mitsubishi, Toyota, etc. We go right across until we get to Mazda. I've obviously pre-selected the correct blank, and you just go along looking for something that looks as close as possible. Now, a lot of keys will have a marking on them. They'll have a number. They might have that number there, MZ31. In this case it doesn't, so the selection is purely a visual thing, and I'll show you the different things to look for. If it does have a number on it, then it could well match up with these numbers here. If it doesn't, you can then go refer to this Ready Regner, which all stores should have, which gives you a wider range here of different numbers from different suppliers, different manufacturers, sorry. You see the different numbers through there, so that's a very handy and good thing to have close to your key cutting area. Okay, so we think it's that one that's the right one. Now we need to check that the length is right. So you can see there, if you line that up, the length is spot on. We can see that the width of the key is the same as well. And importantly, the profile. So I'll look at it there like that, and you can just take a look there, and the profile is just that angle of the key. So you can see their front on, so you can see that they're the same as well. So we know we've got the right blanks, so now we're off to cut the key. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about these jaws here. More often than not, the more common key to cut is a domestic key. And I'll show you there's 4 different settings on these jaws, on these vice jaws. So to change a setting, you don't take this right out, but just loosen this up, lift them up, and they twist like that. Okay, so you see narrow, standard, X, wide. Now most domestic keys, you'll just use the standard setting for. I'll talk more about it in the video we were covering off the domestic keys. Most automotive keys, you'll put to X. Okay, so we've got X on this side. You've got to make sure that obviously you've got settings both the same there. So we've got them on X, which is generally most appropriate for an automotive key. So take the blank. So we're going to place the blank into the right hand side, the customer's key over there. So we do this up here like that. Now you'll see when you're doing it, you'll feel that it sits into a nice channel, nice and solid there. So importantly too, to hold it level and horizontal. If it went in slightly off, that's an exaggeration, but even slightly, it's going to be a problem and not work. So hold it down just gently on top. Do it up there like that, and do it up nice and tight. Okay. Now the next thing we do is we're going to align this here so we can then put in the other key. Now domestic keys, most domestic keys have a shoulder on them. Automotive keys generally don't. They're quite flush. So we line this one up with the tip. So we pull down that key guide, we push it across until it just touches there onto that side. The key here, we line that up. Both sides are the same, so you don't have to worry about whether you've got it in the right way or not. And we're going to, again, making sure that it's nice and flush, and that it's just sitting there on that side as well. We give that a nice tighten up like that. Okay, so I've just shown you how to line up the key using the tip. An alternative, which I'll just show you here without going through the whole process, this is an automotive key as well. You'll see here that there is a very small lip. Okay, so the alternative to putting the guide onto the tip, like we've just done, is to go to this first lip here. Either way is absolutely fine. Obviously what you need to check before you do that is that all of the cutting happens from in this end here and not over here. If it did happen over here as well, obviously it wouldn't in this example, then you would have to go to the tip. So I just thought I'd show you just a couple of different options there. So you could, because there is, even though it's a small lip and a lot less than a domestic key shoulder, but you can see that the guide does stop there, and then we would have the customer's key over this side and we'd push that up so it matched to that lip as well. So that's just an option to doing it, aligning the guide to the tip. So we know that's now all set. That's a critical part of the process. So we can lift up the guide. Now before we start, I'm just going to move the carriage across, because you can see here that's the cutting wheel, and you can see that the cutting process doesn't start until you're at that end of the blank. So just get it sort of roughly lined up there so we can just lift it straight up when the machine's going. Right, so we close the lid. Underneath here there's the on and off switch. We turn it on, and then here we have a lever, so you push it, some gentle pressure on this lever here, push it down, pull it out, and just lift it up very gently. Very important that you don't let it slam into, if you let go of it, it's going to slam into the cutter, and it's going to ruin the cutter, or damage the cutter. Right, now we go down here, and to start the process, the cutting process, we press this button, holding our finger on it for about 3 seconds for it to engage. You just push it in quickly and let it go, it won't engage. So you just hold it in, about 3 seconds. You'll see that the wheel there is turning. That shows you that it's the start of the process. Once it's stopped revolving, you know that it's finished its cycle, and it's very important that you leave it to finish its cycle, otherwise it won't work properly for the next time around. Switch the unit off, cover back, same thing here, pull it out so we can let that down. Now with automotive keys, they're double-sided, so we're going to repeat the process on the other side. So we take that out, flip it over, pop that in, again make sure it's bedded down nicely there. Pull this across here, do the same side here, turn that one over. So you see how it's just hitting there, so you want the same thing on this side here. Okay, it's nice and tight. That one's nice and tight. You can lift that up, do the same thing again. You know, it starts cutting about there, so it's good there. Lift the lid back down. Turn the machine on. Same thing again, pull the lever out, gently let it go up. Hold your finger on the button for about 3 seconds. Sure it's finished its cycle, that wheel stop turning. Turn the machine on. Okay, do the same thing here, pull that down. So now we'll take the new key out there, take the customer's key out as well. There's one more process. During the cutting process it sometimes leaves rough edges on, so we give it a buff on the buffer wheel there. Just to smooth those rough edges out and just make it a little bit better when it goes into the customer's lock or ignition in this case. So we have the shield up, so I'll put my glasses, safety glasses on here now. Turn this on. Remember I've got the cutting wheels going as well, so I'm going to keep well away from that. On both sides. Machine off. I can take my safety glasses off now, leave the lid in the closed position, and then you just take a close look just to be comfortable that in fact the key looks right before handing it over to the customer. Just one other thing to mention as well, every store should have the key cutting manual. Now this manual goes through everything that we've just talked about here. From key selection through to talking about different parts of the machine, and you know the process to go through as well, some general tips and different bits and pieces there. So that's how you cut an automotive key.